Global War 36 enthusiast here with Operation No Time to Die, turn 11.4, the Commonwealth. It is July 1941. There were two special 15-year celebrations in 1941. This year marks the 15th anniversary of Emperor Hirohito's ascension to rule Japan. When Hirohito was a crown prince, he visited Europe. That was the first visit by a crown prince from Japan. The Commonwealth is thinking of honoring Emperor Hirohito with a state visit by Princess Elizabeth, the heir apparent, who is turning 15 only 8 days before Hirohito's 40th birthday this year. The Japanese and Commonwealth have always been such close, trustworthy friends. May we long continue to live in blissful peace. So at the start of my 11.4 turn, I have a correction to make involving the French militia that were in Abyssinia, the Free French Militia. Madman Dan pointed out a mistake that I had made. On page 47, 11.2, Militia and Infantry Upgrade, it says, upgrading requires a supply path from a factory in the home country to the land zone the unit receiving the upgrade is in. For Free France, home country is Paris and the adjacent land zones. So I don't have a home country to trace to, and at the time I made the upgrade, I didn't have a factory to trace to. So it was completely illegal for me to upgrade the militia that were in Abyssinia. I'm going to have to replace those two militia. And if you track back to what happened to the militia that I upgraded in Abyssinia, they turned into infantry, moved into Nubia, and the next turn moved to Eastern Egypt. So one of the guys in Eastern Egypt and one of the guys in Nubia has to be removed from the board. And then I'm going to return 4 IPPs to the Free French. So they start the turn with 14 IPPs. Okay, let's rotate around and we'll get ourselves centered. Oh, I think I've zoomed in a bit too far. There, that should be good. Okay, so I think we're going to progress to technology. Everyone knows the most important, most valuable, most desirable tech is wartime economy. Right now, all 3 Axis powers have reached stage 4. The Soviet Union has also reached stage 4. For the Allies, the leader of the pack in wartime economy is France at stage 2. Both the USA and Commonwealth are stuck at stage 1. Given the horrendous luck of USA peacetime income increase rolls, this has got to be the worst Allied luck recorded in a Global War 36 game, at least regarding Allied tech or peacetime income increases. Okay, now that I've got my typical whining, start of the turn whining out of the way, let's proceed to my tech rolls. I will be rolling for wartime economy and improved construction. Let's see what happens. Okay, so for wartime economy, I got a 5, so I did not succeed. And for improved construction, I got a 4, so I did not succeed. Okay, British purchases. So I'm going to be purchasing 2 naval transports for 14, 2 medium armor for 12, 2 infantry for 6, 2 anti-aircraft artillery for 8, and I'm going to begin construction of an airbase in Eastern Egypt for 3. I will lend lease 1 artillery to the KMT for 4. And I will lend lease 5 IPPs to the USSR. So that's 14 plus 12 is 26. 26 plus 6 is 32. 32 plus 8 gets me up to 40. Airbase gets me to 43. The artillery gets me to 47. And then 5 more gets me to 52. I don't save any. FEC purchases, I have 1 artillery for 4, 2 Gurkhas for 8, 1 colonial infantry for 4, that gets me to 16, don't save any. Anzac, I have 1 infantry for 3, and 2 militia for 4, 7 IPPs. I have 8, so I save 1. Should have had Nope, I did a math error. I'm sorry, I said 1 infantry. I changed my mind. It wasn't 1 infantry. I'm getting 1 artillery for 4 and then 2 militia. That's what the error was there. Okay, so it cost me 8. I don't save any. Combat movement. All right, 1 strategic bomber is going to leave London, fly down and bomb this rail in Aquitaine, and does 1 damage, and then go back to London. My convoy in C-Zone 14, my submarine in C-Zone 14 is going to do some convoy raiding. Remember, that's the one up there in Sweden. So we'll come over here and we'll see what we get as far as the convoy raiding roll. Red is the attacker, white is the defender. Last time I got a 6 and a 1. Okay, so this time the defender wins. I don't do any damage to that convoy from Sweden. All right. Now we're going to non-combat movement. Okay. I'm going to have to rotate back out here. And we'll have to back the camera out to hopefully be able to see this. Yeah, okay, great. So this anti-aircraft gun is going to move from Sudan to Nubia. 1 medium bomber will move from Belgian Congo up to Eastern Egypt. Okay, now we need to see if I can get that destroyer in there. There's this destroyer off the coast of Turkey that joined with us. It's going to move down here to C-Zone 81. Okay, now we have to come over here. Let's see if I can get... There we go. Got some movement. All right, so I think that has that on there. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So now I've got this torpedo boat destroyer in 109 is going to move to 105, so it's going to go up 2 off Cape Verde. 1 light carrier, with 1 tactical bomber, 1 British destroyer, and 1 Anzac destroyer will move from C-Zone 109 to C-Zone 79. Then all these units that are here on that task force marker, which is, let's see, nope. Yep, okay. So if we're looking at this task force marker right here, all those units, which is 1 light carrier with a tactical bomber, 2 battleships, 1 battle cruiser, 4 heavy cruisers, 1 coastal defense ship. You can tell the difference between the cruisers and coastal defense ship. I put a little white mark on the tower there. So that's the coastal defense ship. 1 British light cruiser, 1 Anzac light cruiser, 4 destroyers, 2 torpedo boat destroyers, all move from C-Zone 79 to C-Zone 81. They have a major port, so even though the coastal defense ship has movement of only 1, it can make it. And so I'm going to add that destroyer that came from Turkey. I'm going to add that to the mix so that that task force that just moved has 5 destroyers right now. Okay. Now we're going to move over here to capture this movement, which is that there are 3 naval transports here. I'm taking 2 of them, and they are picking up 2 Marines here from Gibraltar and moving into this C-Zone, C-Zone 80, and picking up these 2 infantry from northern Algeria, and then moving over to C-Zone 81 and dropping off 2 infantry in eastern Egypt and 2 Marines in eastern Egypt. And I'll come back later and chip this out correctly, but what is in eastern Egypt is 8 infantry, 2 Marines, 2 French infantry, 3 British militia, 1 French fighter, and 1 British medium bomber. Okay. Next, let's swivel up to England. Okay, up in London, I am going to have 2 Marines. No, that's not correct. It's just 1 Marine. 1 Marine moves from London over to British Midlands. Okay, then from British Midlands, I'm going to have 2 infantry move over to London, along with 2 militia from British Midlands over to London, and 1 anti-aircraft gun. So in London right now, I have 1 Marine, 1 airborne infantry, 2 militia, 2 infantry, 1 anti-aircraft gun, 3 fighters, and a strategic bomber. Okay. Then I'm going to do strategic rail movement. I'm not going to capture this on camera, but my opponents, it's 1 artillery from South African Union is railing up to eastern Egypt. The hardest thing for me to get this thing sold around to is South African Union. Sorry about that. Let's see. Strategic naval movement. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get that Anzac guy right here. This Anzac transport can only move 1, 2, but I want to get it up to 79 so bad that I'm going to waste a strategic naval movement on it. And then that will leave me 2 more strategic naval movements, and that is I'm going to use on this transport that is here in Sea Zone 25. It's going to pick up the 1 Marine that didn't move and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and drop off that Marine in Gibraltar. All right. So as far as disposition of transports, I have 2 that are in 81. I have 3 that are in 79. That's all I got so far. And then I'm moving. Let's see if I can get all these naval units on the screen. I've got them on a task force marker up here. I think that you can see that barely. Okay, it's all these naval units, which is a light carrier. It's basically all the units that remain in Sea Zone 25. Every single naval unit of mine that's in 25 is going to move 1 space over to 24. So it's a carrier with a fighter, a battleship, a heavy cruiser, a coastal defense ship, 2 light cruisers, and 4 destroyers. All move over to that spot. All right, and that is the end of my non-combat movement. Placement of British units. So I built 2 naval transports. They're going to go in Sea Zone 24. And then I'm going to place 2 medium armor, 2 infantry, and 1 anti-aircraft artillery in London. So that's 2 medium armor, 2 infantry, and 1 anti-aircraft artillery. So adding to London from before, we have 2 medium armor, 2 infantry, and we've plussed up the 1 anti-aircraft artillery up to 2 anti-aircraft artillery. We don't have that Marine that I mentioned earlier because I pulled him down with strategic naval movement. Okay, then the other anti-aircraft artillery gets placed in northern England. I have a Lend-Leased artillery that's going to KMT. I will start off here in British Midlands. I'll come down through the Suez into, oh, you can't see that. I'm coming around into Burma. and then taking the Burma Road into Yunnan. Okay, and then the 5 IPPs that I am sending to Russia will leave Scotland, and they'll go to Murmansk. So that gives the Russian player, looks like he goes up to 71. He had 66, at least that's what I have him down for, and now he has 71. All right. Placement of FEC units. All the FEC units, which is 1 artillery, 2 Gurkhas, and 1 colonial infantry, are all going into Calcutta. So let's swing around to Calcutta so we can do a summary of what is located there. All right. So I'm adding 2 more Gurkhas. So that gets us up to 5 Gurkhas. I'm adding 1 more infantry. So that gets us up to 10 infantry. Oh, that's militia, sorry. Oh, that gets us up to 11 infantry. Artillery, that gets us up to 4 British artillery. We still have that Anzac artillery. And that is the placement of all the FEC units. All right, now Anzac units. So I have 1 artillery that's going into Sydney. Let's see if we can get that on camera. Yep. Okay, so got 2 artillery now in Sydney. And I have 2 militia, and I'm going to place those in New Zealand. So I have 3 militia, 2 infantry in New Zealand. Okay, collect income. Great Britain has 28, plus 3 for Suez and 2 for no rating subs. That gets me up to 33 IPP for Great Britain. And then as far as the FEC, I collect 16. It's probably the last turn I'm going to collect 16 for the FEC. And Anzac collects 7 plus the 1 they... Oh, no, I didn't say 1, so they have 7. That's it. You can tell I thought I did the infantry with Anzac and changed mine to an artillery, so that's why I was off on that. Okay, now we are ready to start Free France's turn. Let's swing around to do the Free French purchases. Free France has 14. They had 10, and then they got the 4 for my mistake about the 2 militia. So I'm going to buy 1 infantry. So basically I took in two infantry off, and I'm replacing it with 1 infantry. And a fighter for 10, so that's 13, and I'll save the 1 IPP. Combat movement. So I'm going to do the convoy rating in C-Zone 14, the Swedish convoy rating. And we'll see if I can manage to close the deal and get him to lose those 3. That would be the dream scenario, to do 3 points of damage. I do get a +2. Oh, perfect. So I Red is the attacker. Sorry, I didn't announce that. It's always been the same way. So the 3 + 2 is 5, minus 2 is 3. So I do 3 points of damage to Germany. So let's look at Germany. Currently, looks like they have 66. So that's going to drop them down to 63. Correct me if I'm wrong, my opponents. Okay. That's the end of combat movement. So now it's non-combat movement. Bring this back, zoom it out, and we'll focus on stuff here in the med. Okay, so the fighter that's in C-Zone 81 is going to come off map and fly back to Eastern Egypt. The fighter that started in Eastern Egypt is going to fly to Northern Algeria. One cavalry will move from Dahomey. Let's see if we can get that. It'll go 1, 2, over to Chad. 1, 2. Yep, that's on camera. All right. And then one air transport will pick up one infantry from Northern Algeria and then drop off that infantry in Eastern Egypt, trying to undo my fiasco of my militia, and then fly back to Northern Algeria and land. Strategic rail movement, none. Strategic naval movement, none. Placement of French units. I'm going to place one fighter in Northern Algeria, so now there's 2. And I'll place one infantry in Northern Algeria, so now there's 2. So there's 1 militia in Northern Algeria, 2 infantry, 2 mountain infantry, 1 airborne infantry, air transport, 2 fighters, air base, and the capital, and a minor factory. There's a French fighter on map in 80. In Eastern Egypt, there are 3 infantry. I don't believe... Oh, strategic rail movement. That's not true. I do want to do a strategic rail movement. I want to rail move this infantry from Sudan to Eastern Egypt. I did not write that down. I did that on the fly. Missed that I hadn't moved that infantry. So actually in Eastern Egypt, I have 4 Free French infantry and 1 fighter. I have 2 militia in Abyssinia. I have a cavalry in Chad. I think that's the complete disposition of the Free French forces. Okay, Free France collects 7. They had 1 saved, so they have 8. That concludes 11.5. I just want to, before we get to Italy 11.6, I want to mention that Italy had succeeded in 10 out of its 10 first first 10 tech rolls, which has got to be a record. But the superstitious part of me notes that Panzer J had always forgotten to do his recruitment rolls for Germany, but on 11.1 for the first time, Panzer J remembered to do his recruitment roll, and I predict that that's going to break Italy's lucky streak, and for the first time, they're going to fail their tech roll. So with that said, this is Global War 36 Enthusiast, now turning this over to Panzer J and 11.6 Italy.